Okay, so we should be going live any second now. There's a loading bar and everything.
I was just saying that I love your hair.
Loading bar and everything. Thank you. Oh, and now we're live. Thank you for the hair compliment. It's very recent. So welcome to our Zoom live chat with our.
I was just saying that I love your hair.
Oh, now it's.
And now we're live.
And it's. Thank you for the hair compliment. It's very recent. So welcome to our Zoom live. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Our. Oh, now it's. It's just circling and cycling. I don't know what's going on. There we go. I fixed it. I'm sorry about that. Technical difficulties casually, right at the beginning of the live. That has to happen every time we do a live stream. So I'm glad it got out of the way early. And hopefully that means that we won't have any more of these difficulties as we go through. So yeah, that's the prayer. It's always the prayer, but the reality might be very different. But let's again hope. So I would like to welcome everyone to another one of our Democrats Abroad Delegate interviews. We have a really exciting lineup today because, as you can see, we have the pleasure of speaking with multiple of our Hispanic Caucus delegates for Democrats Abroad. I'm just going to give a bit of background on the Democrats Abroad and the DNC before we dive in. So as many of you know, the Democratic National Convention will be held this week. And because DA is recognized as a state party by the DNC, we are sending delegates from around the world to represent us and the issues that matter most to Americans living abroad. For those who may not be familiar with Democrats Abroad, we are the official arm of the Democratic Party for the millions of Americans who live outside of the United States. We have 44 country committees around the world, and we work to inform Americans abroad of their rights and help them continue to participate in the US political process. Over this past week, we've been talking to several delegates about their stories, what they are doing as a delegate, and what issues matter most to them. Throughout our conversation, please let us know in the comments if you have any questions that you would like to pose to them. These live streams are as much about getting your questions answered as they are about getting to know the delegates, and obviously we want to do both. With us today, we have a wonderful group. I'm going to go around the circle and just interview everybody, let everybody have a second to introduce themselves, and then we're going to start diving in with questions. So Juan, would you like to start?
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Juan Cerda. I'm originally from California. I vote in San Francisco, but I currently reside in Vienna, Austria, is where I called home for the last 4 years. Thank you.
And then if we'll do Nelika, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Onelika Andrade. I vote in Yolo County, California, and I'm currently live in Brussels, Belgium.
Wonderful. And Diego?
Yeah, hello everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening. My name is Diego Rivas. I also vote in Yolo County, California, so Sacramento area, and I live in Berlin, Germany.
And Lizette, please.
Hello everyone. Buenas tardes a todos. Buenos días. Mi nombre es Lisette Wright, and I live in Ottawa, Canada, and I vote in New York 10. And my congressperson is Jerry Nadler.
I love it. Thank you. We just got one more participant looking to join, so I'll add him right now and throw him right into the middle of it. And coming on right now will be Miguel. And while Miguel's signing on, I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Meg Adams. I'm originally from the suburbs of Philadelphia. Now I live in Zurich, and I vote in Pennsylvania, quite boringly, right back where I came from. And Miguel, if you have a second to introduce yourself, I'm sorry for you to jump in right immediately and quickly, but if you could just tell us your name, where you're originally from, and where you live right now, that would be great.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jose Miguel Madrigal. I was born in Columbus, Ohio on July 4th, by the way. Yeah, I'm an independence baby. And I currently live in Costa Rica.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And if you're an Independence baby, are you like an Independence Day baby? Are you an independent baby? What does that mean for you in like in a specific sense of that? Is that
Well, that wasn't a question I was
prepared
expecting
for?
to be asked.
I apologize.
The-
I'm going to just assume that you were a strongly, fiercely independent baby and then not really press you on that anymore.
Well, being born on July 4th, when I was little and I was still living in Columbus, I thought the fireworks on July 4th were for me, for my birthday. So I thought, wow, everyone's celebrating that it's my birthday. So, but since I grew up, I knew it wasn't all about me.
I would just like to say that no one can tell you it isn't about you. Oh, there we go. He's really repping. I like it. So yeah, I would just say that no one can convince you that it's not about you, and that's about how you personally treat the fireworks. So I think go for it. Just a little point of logic for everybody. If you could just have yourself muted when you're not talking, and I'll make sure I get to everybody as we go around. That way we don't have all of the excitement bubbling up through the Zoom screen at the same time. So first question I'm going to pose to our delegates here is, how are you doing in the lead up to the DNC? What are you doing to prepare? I know it's an online conference this year, so it's a bit different, but what are you doing to prepare other than, I presume, stocking up on coffee and Red Bull for those who are based in Europe and going to be up until 3 a.m.? Anybody have any insights on what they're doing to get ready for the DNC at the moment? I like it. Everyone's just like, no, I am comfortable. I am ready for the DNC. And there is not even like a single question that I have about it, which is amazing. So what would our initial thoughts be on what you're excited for? What is the most thing that you're most excited for the DNC this year? Juan, do you want to start?
First of all, I'm over the moon. Excited with the Biden-Harris ticket. I think we can see the excitement that's coming all around in the Democrats coming together for this amazing historic ticket. To have a young, dynamic, charismatic woman to join the ticket and who's going to take on Mike Pence in October is really exciting for me. So I'm really looking forward to that. Especially she's from San Francisco. I went in San Francisco. She was our district attorney, and she went against Prop 8, and so I'm really looking forward to having some one-on-one for someone to go against him. So that's I'm really looking forward to that. In regards to the Democratic Convention, we're very excited for next week. It's going to be all virtual. We're definitely prepared. We definitely are looking forward to the speeches that are going to be given from different speakers. President Obama, Michelle Obama, some other big highlight speakers are going to be presenting that night. So really looking forward to it because it will be late, 3 in the morning, our time here in Austria, Europe time. So this will me. So I think it'll be fine. I think they're strong enough Brazilian coffee that I have. So I think withstand the late night.
I like that you stocked up on that. That seems like the right choice. It seems entirely necessary for this circumstance. Anyone else have any specifics that they're excited about for the DNC?
I just wanted to say that it was announced today that Billie Eilish will be singing during the convention. So that's good. I need to see who is the other person performing, but I am very excited that although we won't be there in person, and this breaks my heart, and I think breaks all of us heart. I think it's a great experience, being a delegate from your house and being, meeting all these wonderful people, Onelika, Juan, Lisette, Diego, Orlando, who's not here today. During these last 3 months, I've been honored to know all of you, and it's a pleasure to represent Democrats abroad. We are the 9 million people who live abroad. We are your voice. And being that is such an honor for all of us. And we can also say we made history. We are we're the first 100% virtual delegates. So if you plan to have grandkids, you can tell them that you were a virtual delegate in the past. So that's the nice part about it. But I if it weren't for the coronavirus, I'd much rather be in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I know that's the kind of blessing and curse of this convention that I keep hearing from all the delegates, that everyone's so excited that it's so accessible because it's virtual, but also that you're missing out on some of those face-to-face, person-to-person moments of the DNC. So everyone's excited because it's accessible and everyone can be a part of it, but also you're not having those 7 a.m. breakfasts where everybody's meeting each other in person and shaking hands and hugging and things, which, as we all know, is not the best idea at this particular time. So I like the safety, but I know that the virtual nature can be a bit of a setback. Anybody else have any specific things they're excited to share about what they're looking forward to at the DNC, or should we carry on to a bit more points? Seems like we're gonna move on. And actually, what Miguel just said reminds me of something that I wanted to share with you guys, which is that America, the caucus chair, actually sent me a video that she would like us to watch as an introduction. So she just gives a bit more background on the Hispanic Caucus and does some very good information for the group. So I'm going to share that right now. There we go, the share screen button. There we go. Just give it a second to load and we'll be right there watching America.
Mula Vanaka from Fiji. My name is America Garcia Graywall, and as the chair of the Hispanic Caucus of Democrats Abroad, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce you to the Latino members of our delegation to the 2020 Democratic National Convention. Established in 2017, the Hispanic Caucus advocates for issues affecting Latinos in and outside of the United States, and we have two key goals in this election year. Number one is U.S. citizens able to vote, and number two, U.S. citizens motivated to vote. Less of an issue this year, as many U.S. citizens would crawl over broken glass to cast their votes for the Biden-Harris ticket. Our number one goal, able to vote, comprises awareness, being registered, receiving their ballots, and most crucially, completed ballots arriving in local election offices in time to be counted, especially in 2020, with voter suppression at an all-time high and with a pandemic disrupting everything we previously took for granted. This is a challenge, and it's one Democrats Abroad has taken on with everything we've got. In addition to the nonpartisan voter registration site at votefromabroad.org, Democrats Abroad hosts a drop-in help desk every Sunday from midnight to midnight DC time to answer questions any U.S. citizen living overseas may have. I'd love to see you this week or any week between now and the election. Is that right? Diego Rivas, Miguel Madrigal, Juan Serva, Onelica Andrade, and Farid Benamor have done, and I'm honored to have them represent Democrats Abroad at this year's Democratic National Convention. Please join me in welcoming our 2020 Latino Caucus delegates.
Well, thank you so much, Jamerica, for sending that over. I think it's a beautiful beginning to this conversation. So all of that amazing introduction being said, and exactly as America pointed out, there is a live 12-hour every single week help desk for Americans abroad looking for information on how to vote. So I'll make sure to be sharing that information again at the end of this meeting because it's so wonderful and so active. I would like to kind of dive into some more personal questions, which sounds a bit intense, but I didn't mean it that way, about everyone's backgrounds and how that has impacted their political views and their goals to be involved in these conversations. So where are you from? Where have you lived? Has that shaped you as a person? And has that shaped your opinion of American politics and how you want to be involved in it? I know that's like 12 questions, but if you have anything to say on those topics, just let me know and I'd love to jump to you. Diego, go for it.
Yeah, hey everyone. So yeah, like we said in the little intro round, I come from California. My father comes from El Salvador, down there in Central America, and definitely he has been a huge inspiration on why I got into politics in general. I remember from a very early age, like I think in the 3rd grade, my friend asked me, like, what do I think about Democrats and Republicans? And there was so much talk about politics at home all the time that I answered, well, you know, the Democrats are the good guys and Republicans are the bad guys. This was very clear for me as right and wrong from an early age. And yeah, I think definitely, you know, both my parents have been very involved in politics. My dad actually was at the 1984 convention in San Francisco when Mondal was nominated. And I think it's really important to recognize the history that we have here as a party, not just as delegates, not just as party members, but also as activists. So this was 1984. There was a civil war happening in El Salvador at the time. And that's part of the reason why my dad had to flee and come to the United States. And he was there actually living in Arizona, working on activism, trying to bring up the important issue that the United States was funding war and death squads in El Salvador. And that was obviously something that the large part of the US electorate probably didn't necessarily know was happening and definitely would not approve of. And he made it to the 1984 convention with other activists from Arizona all the way to San Francisco. And they pushed hard to make that an issue that was heard at the Democratic Convention, that the United States should leave El Salvador and not contribute to the bloody wars. So I think, you know, especially here at the Hispanic Caucus, it's important to understand these long histories of not only why we may be involved in politics, but why we need to be involved as US citizens, because, you know, now I'm living in Germany, and it's clear that what happens in US politics will affect the world. So we have to make sure that we do our part to have a more peaceful society.
Absolutely. And I think that's incredibly powerful, speaking to kind of the lineage of politics in the family. And it's incredibly salient that American politics affects the rest of the world, and never has it affected the rest of the world more obviously than right now, as people are discussing all the different countries having to step up and kind of fill the void that America has made in so many places with its actions right now. Anyone else would like to speak to the way that their family or their background has impacted their goals of being involved in politics? The international nature of your life has made you look back on American politics in a certain way?
Sure. I can talk a bit about my life. I was actually born in Venezuela, and when I moved to the States when I was a teenager. And obviously already that change can impact how you see the world. But I think in a way, you know, that change, Venezuela was in a bit of a dire situation when we moved out, and being back in the States, it was a complete change, but it didn't necessarily, I mean, it made me more receptive about, you know, the influence of the US in the world, and vice versa, you know, the influence of smaller countries like Venezuela in the rest of the world, and how it was seen from a different country. But at that stage, I think in my life, I was quite young. I was just kind of grateful that I had more freedom in the States than what I had back home. So I just kind of took it for granted. And then I think, you know, I volunteer a lot with the local families, the migrant farmers families, but I never got really politically involved. And I think because then, you know, I moved during the Bush era, and then we had the Obama era where, you know, things seemed to be under control. So I had this awareness of politics, but not really completely ingrained. And it was until I moved to Brussels, and then you look from the outside, And not only, impacted me, and it made me very worried about what's going on back home. My family's there. It's the place that I was calling my home. I mean, I wasn't born there, but some part of my growing up was there, and I just saw it in danger. And also you start seeing everyone being like, what's going on? You're from the States, you live in the States, what's going on back there? So it does trigger something. But I think in my experience, it took a bit longer to get active and to actually realize that actually, what I do matters a lot. And, I should vote, and I always voted, but, sometimes we need to do more, and each little bit matters. And I think that's a strong message. And a lot of our community, sometimes people think their voices don't matter, or, one more vote won't make a difference, and it will. And in these elections, the Latino vote will make a huge difference. And I think it's quite an empowering message to hear that we're going to be the largest minority voting this year. That it's if we actually mobilize to vote, but we're likely to be the largest minority to be voting. So this is an exciting one. And I think the message I want to pass is, every vote counts. Do not think that it doesn't. If you're eligible to vote, do vote.
And I think the power of that, each individual vote counts, especially when you pile those votes together and you are part of a larger collective, such as the Latino vote, or such as that fit in a swing state. Everybody is part of that larger collective, and it's so important. Lizette, you looked like you wanted to jump in.
Yes, actually, and jumping into the fact that Angelica brought the topic of voting, and everyone should be honored to do so, because it's our civic duty. And so in university, I actually was active with student government. And so we organized and we went upstate New York, since I grew up in Manhattan, the Upper West Side. And so I went to Hunter College. And so we went upstate canvassing and registering people and telling them about the current candidate. And so I think that's important. And people, every single individual should make a point of looking up what current elections are happening at your state level, as well as the federal level. And every year you should be informed, because at the state level, even the city and the lawyers and attorney generals that are running, all of those individuals have an impact on your life, and they do have an opinion on the law and legislation. And I just think it's important for people to be aware of the issues. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to be part of this process, because we get to be involved and to vote and cast our vote on the nominee. And I am a Sanders Pleo delegate. So of course, the majority of the people in Democrats Abroad, Senator Bernie Sanders won the primary. So I am one of those delegates representing that victory. And so I'm really honored that I'll be able to do that and vote for him, and also vote on the platform, and as well as the unity reform. But at the same time, we're all going to convene and support the nominee that gets the most vote, and that is the presumptive nominee, Joe Biden. And I'm excited to be there and to speak to that victory, and that will be the beginning, the kickoff for the campaign, and guaranteed our victory that most definitely in November, because we need it.
That's such an interesting point about being technically a Sanders delegate and being part of a larger convention supporting the presumptive nominee, Joe Biden. Can you speak a bit more to that kind of situation, how the delegates are part of the primary voting for their particular candidate, and then part of a larger convention that eventually will choose a specific candidate who may or may not be the one that you personally are voting for?
Well, on the first ballot and the first round, of course, technically, I'm not well versed in all of the procedural matters, but there are going to be Sanders delegates. There's also a number of other delegates representing the other candidates that ran in the primaries. But as we see, the results for Joe Biden, he won a large number of primaries. So it's a combination of many delegates representing the various candidates that picked up votes and therefore delegates for the convention. And I think it would be interesting to hear from either my fellow delegate, Sanders delegate Diego, or if not, maybe Juan could tell us how he feels being part of that reality that his candidate is going to be nominated and guaranteed the win for the nomination.
Diego or Juan, do you have a second? Oh, it looks like Juan's going.
Sure, I'm happy to take on that. First of all, I just want to go back a little bit about my story of the politics, because I think it's important to say. I remember being back when I was 7 years old, and my mother taking me to a protest for Prop 187. For those who don't know that, Proposition 187 was basically in California, would ban migrant children. California used to be this Republican state and a Latino population. But what we did is we mobilized. We got people to register to vote. We got people to make sure that they voted. And that's what we mobilized. And now all of California is practically a Democrat. It's all Democratic. And we're sending the vice president, we have the Speaker of the House from San Francisco. We have such a blue, it's no longer this progressive bad name of San Francisco sending someone to DC. And so I'm really looking forward to having this presidency that's going to come about, because we are going to be, soon to be President Biden has said, he is in transition. He's going to be a transitional presidency, and we are going to be seeing the future of the Democratic Party. And I think one of the great things that Senator Sanders has said is that we can all come together to support Biden, and we can make him more left. Because I do live in Austria. I do see myself, everyone needs healthcare access. We need other people. We see the benefits of living in a more society that's able to respond to the needs of its people. And America will get there, but it's going to take time, and it's going to take our effort. And the first thing we have to do is to make sure we vote, and to make sure that our votes aren't being suppressed by this Republican president that continues to undermine our democracy in every step of the way. So that is my 2 cents on that.
Thank you so much for providing that, because I think it's such a valuable perspective. Diego, do you have an interest in chiming in about the delegate representation at the convention?
Yeah, I can say a little bit to that. I mean, I think what's been an interesting process for me. I mean, I always knew about the Democratic and Republican national conventions, but it's been a pretty steep learning curve trying to figure out exactly how it works. What does it mean to be a delegate? What do delegates do? And I think in a lot of the work that I've been trying to do is, once I find out, after some research, talking with fellow delegates, is also trying to communicate that. Because I think the delegates are really a critical and crucial part of our, democracy, and how our partisan-based democracy, party-based democracy actually works. And, we need to somehow have a way to hear from all the different communities across our large country. We're the 3rd most populated country in the world. 300 million. This is no easy task. This is difficult. How are we going to really hear what these communities from around the country, and in our case, the world, really want a Democratic Party to be? And, I have the mandate to vote for Bernie Sanders, and it's not just a mandate, but it's a pledge. And I will do that, with joy. And obviously, it's been an inspiration to not only myself but millions of others. But of course, understanding that within the larger process of what we have, which is we're all delegates coming together to make a decision about who should lead our party based on the results. And the results say that Joe Biden is a candidate and will be the future president. And I see myself as part of that, as representing certain issues. But definitely, we all will be coming together. And this is the launch of a broad coalition from the progressive wing of the party to John Kasich. And next week, we're coming together and we're going to have a lot of voices and disagreements, but that's okay. That's democracy. And we have one thing that's uniting us, which is getting Donald Trump out of the White House, which we will do.
And hopefully it unites us very, very strongly, because I feel like we all feel that very strongly right now. Like, we have a thing that unites us very aggressively, and it is getting Donald Trump out of the White House. Miguel, you said that you had something that you wanted to join in with.
Yes. First of all, I'll show you my Joe Biden impression. No malarkey. So I just wanted to go back to the issue of our backgrounds. One of the things that drew me to the Democratic Party ever since I was 12 was the idea that the Democratic Party believes in us, believes in the working people, believes in the American dream. My dad went to Ohio State, and while he was there, my mom got pregnant, and I was eventually born there. And being a foreign student in the United States is not easy. Education right now in the United States is way too expensive. And we lived in Ohio. Our representative back then was John Kasich, and he voted bill after bill to make sure college was not affordable. Cutting taxes for the rich. Our senator back then, who is currently now the governor, Mike DeWine, did the same thing when he was in Washington. So this, being a Democrat and being part of this great party I'm proud to be part of it's personal. If it weren't for the high cost of college, I would be right now studying in the United States. But that's that. So when I moved to Costa Rica, I was 6 years old. I was born in the States. I lived there for 6 years, and then I came here. And I went to a school here in Costa Rica called the Lincoln School. It's a U.S.-based school, and I had one of my teachers, Mr. William Hughes. I will always remember him. He made me, he inspired me to get involved in politics and study and research. And back in 2012, I was 17. I missed the 2012 election because I was 17, and it hurt me very bad because I really wanted to get Barack Obama reelected. So what I did is, I was very frustrated, but what I did was I did my research, and it turns out there's this thing called Democrats Abroad. And me as a 17-year-old kid in Costa Rica, what can I do? So I joined, and the day I turned 18, I officially became a member. That was one of the things I did on my 18th birthday. And ever since, I've been very active with Democrats Abroad Costa Rica. I've had the pleasure of knowing Kathy Rothschild, who's out on the call right now, but and all the people from Democrats Abroad Costa Rica. And it's just an honor to be here with them. And one of the funny things of being a Democrats Abroad member, I always go to the meetings, and there's a bunch of older people, and some people, when they come into the meetings, they think I'm someone's grandson or something, and it's actually very funny. And when they actually find out I help run the thing, they sit down and they thank me. So that warms my heart a little, making sure every person I know that lives in Costa Rica and that is a US citizen, that they can vote. That's my main mission. Of course, being a delegate is nice and all fancy and stuff, but the main point we're all here is to help other people vote and make sure Democrats win from all the way from the White House to the school board. We need Democrats right now. Our country's getting hit by the coronavirus and bad leadership and bad economic policy. So now is the time we should go out, register as many people as possible to vote, and win this November.
That was wonderful. And I would just like to start by thanking you for, oh my gosh, he has so many props. I love it so much. Just came with so many props. I think I'm going to.
Of course, I came prepared. I came prepared to this interview.
And prepared means there is a box of props next to Miguel. He's gonna just, everything happens, he's gonna like bring out a sign, and I'm so excited. I'm gonna require that for all future interviews I do. So be ready, guys. There's gonna be a set list of props. But I would like to say that, Miguel, I completely empathize and sympathize with that moment of wanting to be so involved and knowing that there must be a way to be involved, but maybe feeling that you don't have access to that because of your age or because of your location or because for years you've been told by your society, by people around you, maybe even by your family, that it doesn't matter and what you do isn't really, nothing's ever going to change because this is the way it is, this is the way it's always been. Maybe treat people nicely yourself and you can make change within your own personal community, but not through politics. And I think that's just something that so many people have bought into that's been such a huge problem because it's all about kind of these interpersonal relationships rather than a larger situation. And I empathize with you very strongly on the being too young side, because I was 14 for Barack Obama's first election. And I was like, no, what do I do? And I canvassed for him with, my dad dropped me off and like on the day of the election, and I canvassed and just got into some woman's car and drove around my neighborhood getting people to sign up for things and to the polls. But that was a bold choice by my father, but other than that, I was able to canvass for Barack Obama, so I think that did it well. I just want to make sure we touch on a topic that I was curious about before I lose any time with you guys, because I want to make sure we get to talk about it. I found that when we were kind of beginning to prepare this interview and this process, that it was named a million different things in all of my files, that it was the Hispanic Caucus, some interview with the Hispanic Latinx delegates, some Latinx Hispanic Caucus members. And when I was discussing this with Megan, who is also Hispanic, and I had the pleasure of taking over the host duties from, she was saying like, yeah, so technically it's the Hispanic Caucus, and some people refer to it as like Latinx voters, the Hispanic Caucus, and everybody just identifies differently. And actually, personally, I've never identified as Latinx. I'm like, that's really interesting and a really interesting point, because identity is such an important part to some people, not to everybody. I don't want to force that on anybody, but it can be such an important part of politics and an important part of what makes you you. And so I was wondering if anybody wants to speak to how they identify or how their identity as Hispanic or Latinx, or maybe something that they don't identify with that is continually put on them as something that you're like, actually, that's something you said I was. I was never saying that I was that. Anyone want to speak to it? I know this also was not on my document list, much like the Independence Baby question.
It's interesting. Well, yeah, go ahead, Miguel. But what I was basically going to say that, I mean, I'm proud to be a Latina. I'm proud to even embrace the Latinx. I'm proud of being Hispanic. Being able to hablar español es un privilegio para mí. And it's just, I'm just proud. I mean, another reason why I'm active is because we need to reclaim the narrative. I mean, Hispanics have been involved in the history of the US, and we've been present in many ways. And so that's what gets me excited about Democrats Abroad, because it gives us a platform to talk about this, to be proud. and to talk about our different experiences, because not all of us have the same experience, but what unites us is that we come from Latin America or Europe and Spain. And so the idea of a mixed culture and embracing multiple identities. I mean, I am a mixed race individual, and I love that, and I'm really proud. And I think we need more people to talk about the beauty of being Hispanic. And I that's who I am.
I just wanted to say that when I started in politics, but when I started getting involved, I always saw the bigger picture. You know, the economic issue, you know, foreign policy. But I never thought about, you know, me being Hispanic. You know, that was secondary. That was you know, that was just a fun fact about me. I'm Hispanic. But now that Trump is president, what he did to those children at the border, I can never forgive him what he did. Separating immigrant children from their families, ripping them apart, and to be all honest, I think that they might never get to see their parents ever again. That breaks my heart. And the fact, you know, he's been so nasty to us, the Hispanic community in general. The day he went down those escalators, you know, his attacks on Mexicans are not only attacks on an attack on Mexicans, and it's an attack to all people of Hispanic race. And you know, Trump has made me more you know, more active on the immigration policy. And that's one of the things that helped me, you know, motivated me to join the Hispanic Caucus. Right now, I am the global vice chair of the Hispanic Caucus. I'm very proud to serve with America Garcia Graywell. And, you know, now that I'm active, I've noticed there's a bunch of other issues that Hispanic people face. You know, not only immigration, it's you know, equal pay. You know, Hispanics we win less than white people gain in their salaries. You know, we have to work harder. We face discrimination at the labor force. It's harder for us to get into college. So there's a bunch of issues. You know, the Hispanic Caucus has made me realize we're not only about immigration. And, you know, I just wanted to say that being Hispanic is, like Lisette said, it's un privilegio. It's nice to see people I can talk with in Spanish, because, you know, here at home, I live in Costa Rica. My parents are Costa Rican. I speak in Spanish the entire time. So, you know, having someone to speak nuestra lengua materna is great. And I really appreciate what America Garcia has done. And, you know, all of you, you know, we're all Hispanics. We're all in this together. Estamos juntos y vamos a ganar.
Thank you so much, Miguel. I saw that I know Diego, Juan, and Angelica all had things that they wanted to say as we began the question. Anybody else want to jump in at this point to kind of discuss identity? And Diego waved his hand, which means I'm going to look intently at Diego now until he unmutes himself and starts talking.
It was more of a someone else can go first, but if my mic's unmute, I can say a couple of thoughts, I guess. Yeah, I guess, I mean, it's a really, I think, important question. And I mean, Latinx, Hispanic, Latino, Latina, how do people identify? I think it's really up to the individual person. I think, you know, the United States is, as we all know, so large. I mean, for me, at least in my circles, Hispanic never was really a word or a term that people used. And now that I've met more people, funnily enough, like abroad, who come from the East Coast or other parts of the country, I've heard Hispanic used a lot more, and I think it's all great. It's how someone personally wants to identify. And then for me, at the same time, I think identity and words like identity politics are thrown around a lot. And I think there are a lot of definitions for identity politics, but for me, it's quite simple. It's that certain identities are not represented in political discourse or in positions of power, and that needs to change. And it's as simple as that. It's about recognizing the social and economic realities of certain groups of people in our society. And at the same time, like Miguel was saying, especially when we have certain political actors riding down an escalator and saying completely xenophobic, racist statements, then it is political. You could pose the question, what's not political? But at the very least, I think we need to come into agreement that when there are direct attacks against an identity, people need to stand up for that. And my only wish is that people see this beyond Trump. I think there's a lot of systemic racism that has been going on long before. There's a lot of things that happen even under current or past Democratic administrations, such as deportation, that we should not tolerate no matter who the president is. But I really hope that there is not only, like Lisette was saying, narrative changes about what it means, but also that people stand up and really recognize that this is a threat on people's lives and livelihoods that we cannot tolerate. So I'm looking forward to moving forward and rethinking a lot of things and having actual tangible change.
Thank you so much, Diego. And I think that's such a good point about the complacency that we can fall into, because exactly as Anelika was saying, when we are kind of spurred by the moment by such atrocities in our faces, it's hopefully quite easy for us all to stand up and be empowered and be like, this is not okay. This is a massive problem. We all need to band together in this moment. But when we feel like we're comfortable, when we feel like everything's going along kind of fine, we don't necessarily investigate the bigger issues within ourselves, within our systems, and sometimes within our party. And that's a vital thing that we need to keep working forward. And such a big part of why we're ecstatic to have a Hispanic caucus being like, no, seriously, feet to the fire. You need to fix this. You might not have seen it, but this is a problem. And I think that's such an exciting and mandatory reason of why we just need more voices at the table. We need much better representation. Anelika and Juan, you both initially had something to say. Would you like to add anything?
Sure, very quickly. I think with the Hispanic Latino, I don't know. I mean, it depends, it's up to the person. But in my case, I think obviously I knew I was Latina because I was born in Venezuela and Latin America, so that's an easy one. But I think even before me consciously, realizing what that meant, I was already called Latina in the States because, I had an accent because I was just coming from Latin America. So it's just, and then I also was called brown, and all of this were new terms to me. And, I didn't come into terms of what it actually meant till I was in university, and I was working a lot with the Native American department and with a lot of Chicano Latino groups. And it was quite eye-opening. It's like, wait a minute, we are not equal really. And, all of these things that Miguel was talking about and Diego were talking about, the access to jobs, to healthcare, to all the socioeconomic opportunities are not really at the same level. And that's where I started realizing, okay, I'm part of this group that, we need to fight. And, I'm guilty of what you said, that, when things were kind of going okay, I didn't really mobilize. I was conscious about, where I stood and what, how I identify. And it took me a while to be like, okay, it's enough, stop. And, we need to mobilize. And it's true. Trump really, gave us, or in my case, gave me that push to be like, stop. Not only because, you're destroying the country that I call home, also because you are being extremely cruel to my community. And, what Miguel was saying, kids in cages, it's just unthinkable. You just draw the line. But yeah, this whole realization for me of, what part of what community I belong to and how I identify, it took me a bit longer than maybe for others. Maybe coming from Latin America into the States, it was a bit of a shock. And yeah, But yeah, I'm proud. I'm like, you know, orgullosa de ser latina y de poder hablar español, and proud to be with, you know, all my fellow Latinos from all over the world, and also from home, because, you know, Diego and I actually come from Davis too, from California. So it's a small world.
You said Davis. My parents actually went to college in Davis, so
No way!
we got all the people. It's a whole circle. Juan, do you want to jump in on the last bit of the circle on identity and how you see it and how you view it in your own life and in politics? We also might have a frozen Juan, which does make chiming in a little bit harder. Can you hear us? Okay, so while we wait for him to unfreeze, if he does unfreeze, I'm really excited about the eventuality. Miguel wants to jump in, it looks like.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I am honored, I guess, of being the only Democrats Abroad delegate who actually lives in Latin America. So I live in a country where, like, everyone here is Hispanic. So being Hispanic was never an issue for me because, you know, I live in a Hispanic majority country. So I just wanted to say that. I think Juan is now.
I just want to say I'm a proud. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
No.
Oh.
Hi, if I can get my mic to work. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Hi. No, I just want to say I'm a very proud Latino man, and I just remember my dad. He grew up in Texas, born and raised in Texas. And I remember him not being allowed to speak Spanish, and how really it was really looked down upon. But yet he still taught me Spanish and made sure that I knew my Spanish and stuff, because it's just such a vital. But I'm just a very proud Latino man, and I'm very happy of where we're going as a community. And we're here right now. If you've not requested your ballot, please do so now. Again, votefromabroad.org. You have to get it now. There is, again, we are being suppressed. Our votes being suppressed. The United States Post Office is going to be suppressed. So please remember to request your ballot today. So that's the only way we have. We're going to make some change in this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Juan. And I will go over all of those details again at the end, because you're right, we can't say it enough. It's not even possible to say it too much. We'll spam your feeds until you do it. Vote, go out and vote, register for your ballot. It's mandatory. It is quite literally the absolute least we can do, and such a vital part of our duties. We have only about 5 more minutes left, but there was one thing that I did want to just kind of briefly get some information from the group on, which is that, as you guys were saying, that there's obviously such a huge group of Hispanic Latino voters in the United States, but I feel like they're always spoken about as this monolith. There's always just kind of this soul, mind, and body of like, well, yes, and the Latino vote will go in this direction or may not go in this direction, and this candidate will or won't have that vote. And I was wondering if any of you could speak to how you felt about that, or if there are particular issues where you're like, no, I've noticed that this is not a monolithic issue, because I always, whenever I hear that, I'm always a bit like, well, that's a huge portion of the world that we're just deciding has one mentality and one mind. And we have such a wonderful array of delegates here that I was wondering if anybody had any thoughts on that topic.
I just want to be quick and short. Just ask any Cuban in Florida. You know, we don't vote as a monolith, and unfortunately, the Republicans have gotten, you know, won over the control, of hearts and minds of Cuban Americans in Florida. So we do have to, we have to go out there. We have to prove that we as Democrats, we are there for the little guy. We're there for the working class. We're there for Hispanics in general. And anytime I hear like someone like Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz, which are Hispanic, they are Hispanic, go out and speak, I'm just shocked, and I'm very disheartened when I hear people of our community speaking that way. But we as Democrats, we have to we can't take anyone for granted, And I think we have to go out and, talk about Hispanic issues and, well, of course, immigration, but other stuff. So, so yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Miguel. And I think that's a really vital point. Lizette, you just jumped into the chat to say something real briefly. Would you like me to address it or would you like to address it?
No, I just quickly said that, just to mention that I'm sure that not all Cuban Americans in Florida are Republican, but, it just speaks to the idea of choice or the reality of choice. And I think we are lucky to be able to make a choice. And one of the choices that we are making as delegates is that we are voting on our platform. And unfortunately, the current Democratic platform as it stands, the proposed document doesn't include a commitment to Medicare for all. And so there have been quite a number of Bernie delegates as well as Biden delegates who have decided to vote no and against the platform because it doesn't include that commitment. And I actually was not surprised, but I came across a tweet early last week where the organizer stated that the majority of young Texans felt that healthcare was an important issue. And I think that speaks to, the different needs that people have. But because of what we're living right now, the current pandemic, it's obvious that Medicare for all should be part of our platform. And if it doesn't end up being part of the plank, then we are part of a Democratic Party that allows us to speak to that and to voice our, to voice and exert influence to make sure that it becomes part of the platform and it becomes part of, because it is an important issue.
And I think that's such a vital issue that Americans abroad can speak to with so much more certainty and experience than most people in the US, because we've lived in places that have provided us with healthcare. And I know the first time I was provided with healthcare as part of my residency, I was like, are you sure? Because this seems to be the hospital and you seem to not be asking me for insurance information, and I am actively confused right now. And I think that that's just so much a learning curve for us, but also, you're right, a vital part of being a part of the Democratic Party and of being an international part of the Democratic Party, that we have that experience and we have a voice, and it's so important to bring those two things together. And one of the things that I know Democrats Abroad is currently asking for is we're asking for international Americans to submit stories to us about the issues that might be relevant to this, that we can then bring them back to Congress and be like, don't you see what it's like over here? Look what we could be doing. Or even like, this is my embassy and it's severely underfunded or not working. And how do we fix this? How do we fix the representation in these countries? Or how do we fix our country so that it's living up to the standard of life that we know is possible and that we expect as Americans? I just want to thank you all so much for joining me. I really enjoyed getting to speak with you, and I hope it was a fun discussion for the other direction. And I would just like to thank anyone who's joined us for our conversation today. And if you would like to join us tomorrow at 12 p.m. on Instagram, 12 p.m. CEST on Instagram, we'll be having a one-on-one discussion with Diego. So just getting even more information about Diego, which I'm excited about, who you were only able to meet briefly today, but we'll be meeting him a bit more intense tomorrow. And Fena will be our interviewer, who you might have seen on Instagram Live, who also got to interview Anelika this week. And as always, and it's truly, as I said, not possible to say this enough, if you have not already, make sure you go to votefromabroad.org and get your absentee ballot. As As Juan spoke to and as Lizette spoke to, they are doing everything they can to have active voter suppression in this election. With USPS being attacked now, every single direction is being come at. We're being come at from every single direction. So this is vital that you go to votefromabroad.org to request your ballot. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Democrats Abroad, to your local country committee. All of the information can be found at democratsabroad.org. And we also, exactly as America said at the beginning, have a global 12-hour-a-week drop-in every week. Sunday, this is Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. every Sunday on Eastern Time until the election. So if you have any questions, any problems, join them. There is someone waiting for you live there to make sure that you get to vote, because it is vital that we all vote, because every vote matters and we are all part of the change that can make our country what it should be. I wanted to thank you all one more time for joining in, and have a wonderful day, and hopefully I get to see you tomorrow on Instagram.
Adios. Ciao.